What's up, y'all? Gonna give y'all some of this Christmas story. He's here. The Nativity from Luke 1 to 2. Everything was ready. The moment God had been waiting for was here at last. God was coming to help his people, just as he had promised in the beginning. But how would he come? What would he be like? What would he do? I don't know. Mountains would bow down, seas would roar, trees would clap their hands, but the earth held its breath, as silent as falling snow. He came in, and when no one was looking, in the darkness, he came. There was a young girl who was engaged to a man named Joseph. Joseph was the great grandson of King David. One morning, this girl was minding her own business when suddenly a great warrior of light appeared. Right there, in the bedroom, he was Gabriel. He was an angel, a special messenger from heaven. When she saw the tall, shining man standing there, Mary was frightened. "You don't need to be scared," said Gabriel. "God is very happy with you." Mary looked around. Perhaps she was talking to someone else. "Mary," Gabriel said, and laughed. Such gladness, Mary's eyes filled with tears. "Mary, you're going to have a baby, a little bitty old boy, and you're going to call him Jesus. He's God's own son. He's the one. He's the rescuer. The God who flung planets into space and kept the whirlwinds around and around. The God who made the universe with just a word. The one who could do anything and all things was making himself small. And was making himself even smaller and coming down as a little bitty old baby. But wait, God was sending a baby to rescue the world? But it's too wonderful, Mary said, and felt her heart beating hard. How can it be true? Is anything too wonderful for God? Gabriel said. So Mary trusted God more than her eyes could see, and she believed. "I am God's servant," she said. "Whatever God says, I will do." You better do it. Sure enough, 9 months later, like the angel had said, Mary was almost ready to have the baby. Now, Mary and Joseph had to take a trip to Bethlehem, a town King David was from. But when they reached the little town, they found every single room was full. Every bed was taken. "Go away! We ain't got no room for you. There isn't any place for you." Where would they go? Where would they stay? So Mary's baby would come. They couldn't find anywhere except an old, tumble-down stable. So they stayed where the cows and the donkeys and the horses stayed. It's probably smelly too. And there, in that stable, amongst the chickens, the donkeys, the cows, the horses, in a quiet of the night, God gave the world a wonderful gift. The baby that would change the world was born. His baby's son. Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm. They made a soft bed of straw and used the animal's feeding trough as a cradle. They gazed in wonder at God's great gift, wrapped in swaddling clothes and laying in the manger. Mary and Joseph named his son Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. Because, of course, he had. It's getting good. That same night, amongst the other stars, suddenly a bright new star appeared. Of all the darkness vaulted the heavens, this one shone clearer. It blazed in the night and made the other stars look pale beside it. God put it there when his baby son was born, to be like a spotlight shining on him, lighting up the darkness, showing people the way to him. You see, God was like a new dad. You know what I'm talking about. He couldn't keep the good news to himself. He had been waiting all these long years for this moment, and now, I say now, He wanted to tell everyone. It's a good book. So he pulled out all the stops. He sent an angel to tell Mary the good news. He had put a special star in the sky to show where his baby was. And now he was going to send a big choir of angels to sing his happy song to the world. Here he is, he comes and goes to see him, my little baby. Not an angel song to sing that well, but that's all right. Now he would send a splendid choir to where, you ask? To a big concert hall, maybe? Or a palace, perhaps? No, no. God sent his little hillside outside of town in the middle of the night. He sent all those angels to sing to a raggedy old bunch of shepherds watching their sheep outside in Bethlehem. And they was raggedy. In those days, if you remember, people used to laugh at shepherds and say they were smelly, stanky, and call them other rude names, which I'm not going to mention right here, boys and girls. You see, at this time, God must have thought that shepherds were very important indeed, because they were the ones he chose to tell the good news to first. The stanky shepherds. That night, some shepherds were out just chilling in the open field, warming themselves by the campfire, when suddenly the sheep darted. They were frightened by something. The olive leaves rustled. What was it? A wing beat? Boys and girls, you know what a wing beat is? I don't know. They turned around. Standing in front of them was a huge warrior of light, blazing in the darkness. Don't be afraid of me, the bright shining man said. I haven't come to hurt you. I come to bring you happy news for everyone everywhere. Today, in David's town in Bethlehem, God's son has been born. You can go and see him. He is sleeping in the manger. And behind the angels, they saw a strange glowing cloud, except it wasn't a cloud. It was angels, troops and troops of angels armed with lights. They were singing a beautiful song. Glory to God be fame, honor, all, hooray. Then quickly as they appeared, the angels left. The shepherds stomped out the fire and left their sheep and raced down the grassy hills, through the gates of Bethlehem, down the narrow cobble streets, through the courtyard, down the steps, past the inn, around the corner, through the hedges, down past Stop and Shop, until at last they reached a tumbled down stable. They caught a breath, then they quietly tiptoed down on the dirt. They heard about the promising child, and now he was here, heaven's son, the maker of stars, a baby sleeping in his mother's arms. This baby would be like a bright shining star in the night. A light to light up the whole world, chasing away darkness, helping people see. And dark it got, and the bright star would shine. Far away, far away, in the east, 3 clever men saw a very same star, the star that God had put in the sky when Jesus was born. They knew it was a sign. A baby king was born. They had been waiting for this star. They knew it would come. He's here, they shouted. He's here, they shouted. And I'm sure if you'd been there, you'd have heard them laughing and dancing and singing and doing all different types of fun-filled activities until the sun came up. But at dawn, they packed up their camels, wrapped the gifts for the baby. They brought the most precious treasures of all: frankincense, gold, myrrh, special, sparkling, lovely, smelling, delicious, gleaming things just right for a king. Boys and girls, there were no iPhones out back then, so he didn't get that. The three wise men, actually, you would have met them, you'd have thought they were kings because they were so rich and clever and important looking. Set off. They rode their camels across the endless deserts, up the steep, steep mountains, down the deep, deep valleys, through the raging rivers, and over the plains. Night and day, day and night, for hours that turn into days, that turn into weeks, that turn into months and months, until at last they reached Jerusalem. Jerusalem was by far the most important city for miles around, and as anyone can tell you, that's where a palace would be, and a king was born in palaces. So they went there, but they were surprised when they showed up. They went to King Herod. Surely he'd know where this baby was, but he didn't. In fact, he didn't like the sound of a new king. It made him cross. That's angry, boys and girls. He didn't want anyone to be king except him. But Herod's advisors told the three wise men what was written in the books, what God had said about the baby king. Go to Bethlehem. That's where you'll find him. Suddenly, they had seen the east started moving again, showing them the way. So the three wise men followed the star out to the big city, along the road, across the little town of Bethlehem. They followed the star through the streets, and in one nice place in town that was not so nice part of town, into the not so part of town, down a little dirt road until they stopped right over a little house. But wait, it wasn't a palace, and there wasn't a guard or a servant or a flag or a red carpet or trumpets or anything. Did they get it wrong? Or was this what God meant? And sure enough, in that little house, there sitting on his mother's knee, they found him, the baby king. The three men knelt before the little king. They took off their royal turbans and gleaming golden crowns. They bowed their noble heads to the ground and gave him the sparkling treasures. The journey that had begun so many centuries before had led the three wise men here, to a little town, to a little house, to a little child. The King of God had promised David all those years before, but this child was a new kind of king. Though he was a prince of heaven, he had become poor. Though he was the mighty God, he had become a helpless baby. This king hadn't come to be the boss. He had come to be a servant. Merry Christmas, OP. Love, peace, and hair grease.